Hi, I'm Derek from Sheltertech. As Jesse mentioned, we build products for the homeless and underserved communities of San Francisco. We were founded in 2015 by Darcel Jackson. He experienced homelessness in 2013, 2014, and he found while he was homeless that it was very easy to get a smartphone, but it was very difficult to access technology designed for the homeless, particularly in getting Wi-Fi and finding resources without the help of case managers. Our primary market is obviously homeless in San Francisco. There are an estimated between 6,500 and 10,000 people experiencing homelessness right now. There's also 8,000 transitional youth, which are people leaving institutional care or starting to make it out in the world on their own, who are at risk of becoming homeless. And there's also 65,000 extremely low-income families here in San Francisco. So we have a few different initiatives. The first one that was started was shelter Wi-Fi. So as Darcel experienced, it was very hard to find Wi-Fi in shelters. Currently, there are only 2 shelters with Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi access. One of them was installed by Sheltertech. To date, we've installed Wi-Fi in 1 shelter and 7 SROs, and we serve about 1,200 people. The other initiatives that we've started are Ask Darcel, which is kind of a Yelp for homeless services, and Casey, which is a referral and case management bot, which uses the data from Ask Darcel. So a little bit about this project. We've been working on this since about August of last year. We found that there is no definitive list of homeless services that's kept up to date here in San Francisco. So we wanted initially to just start being able to refer people to the best services. If you have a question of like, where can I find shelter, or how do I apply for shelter? How do I get on a housing list? How do I apply for a food pantry? There was no simple way to direct people to that because the data just didn't exist. So we built this project. It's primarily designed for use by case managers, service providers here in San Francisco, and direct to the homeless community. And we are just finishing up with the primary release of the product, and we're currently doing a bunch of vetting sessions, like I'll explain later. And then Casey, as I mentioned, we're thinking about this as our direct to the homeless community service. So where Ask Darcel is kind of a large, bulky, data-driven project. Casey will just be about getting the data into the hands of the people who need it most. We want to use text messaging and any other chatbot services that the homeless community is using. So there are definitely ways to get involved with us. We've raised about $70,000 last year to spend on the Wi-Fi installations, and we also host data vetting workshops where we pay members of the homeless community to help us vet our data. We found it's really surprising and amazing how much information that they have, but a lot of it is kept kind of in word of mouth, and so we work with them to get that data into our database so they can share it with a wider audience. You can get involved in June. Every weekend in June we'll be hosting vetting events. And what we were looking for is volunteers to come and speak with the homeless, help them with data entry, do a little bit of digital literacy training, and improving our database. We're also looking for more full-time type volunteers, so we're an all-volunteer organization. We have about 15 people working on the project, and we're looking for developers, usability testers who can work with us and work with the homeless community as well as with service providers in the city, and building up more partnerships so we can improve distribution. And thank you very much.
Hi, I was wondering, what was the motivation behind this chatbot idea instead of more traditional search methods?
So digital literacy is definitely a problem. We found that about 50% of San Francisco's homeless community have smartphones, but they quite typically lose their smartphones. So going with more traditional app or web-based flows is a little bit difficult because they may not have the same device frequently, or they may not be comfortable with accessing things like the Google Play Store or the App Store, where you have to like log in. They quite often don't have any login information. So a bot seemed like a more sensible approach because they quite often have access to free SMS or a certain number of SMS. But we also do want to build an app that has a chatbot flow as well. In general, a less UI kind of intensive approach seems to be a much more easy way to get at the data.
Hey, cool project. 2 questions. You're looking for developers. What's your stack?
On the front end, we're React and React Native. On the back end, I know we have Ruby. Sorry, I'm not a developer.
Cool, fair enough. And second thing, do you do anything with, I guess, sort of real-time data? An example being, I don't know, if shelters have a certain number of beds for the night, do you have things where, for example, the people who run that shelter could post that on the app and keep that updated in real time?
We definitely have plans to do that. We're still at a point where we've worked with a number of organizations to basically give us their lists of services, and now we're going through and making sure that all of those services that they provided, we have all the correct information. So like eligibility, application information, that stuff is not really easily accessible. So the first process is getting all of that information, and then the next step would be working directly with service providers so they can keep the information up to date on their own by simply saying, this is how many shelter beds we have available, this is how long our wait list is for a food pantry, stuff like that.
Cool, awesome, thanks.